Did you start?
I think I'm right.
Uh, and YouTube as well?
Hmm?
YouTube as well? Yeah, good job.
I'm learning.
Neil, how does this clinic called?
Sorry?
How does the clinic called?
The clinic we went to,
Yeah.
Sherpa. Sherpa.
Thank you.
Hi. It's that time again. I want to talk about things that people want and need and sometimes don't know that that's what they want and need. I was a doctor for 53 years in Perth, Western Australia, first of all in the hospitals, then a suburban family doctor GP, then had my own dual diagnosis mental health and addiction clinic for 5 years. And some of the things that I needed, I didn't know about. So I hope I can, as an old man, um, give some helpful information to some people that might be 60 or 70 years younger than me. One of the most important things is make smiling one of the most helpful things in your whole life. So why is smiling so important? Well, when we feel good, that means our happy chemistry is strong. Our happy chemistry is mainly serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and over 20 endorphin chemicals. We have over 60 or about 60 chemicals in our brain that and those are the main happy chemicals. Unfortunately, there are unhappy chemicals as well, or we can be unhappy because our happy chemicals are low. And it's very important to keep our happy chemicals high because the over 20 endorphin chemicals manage our immune system. And our immune system is cells and antibodies and chemistry in every part of us that fight infections, allergies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases, and cancers. All things we don't want. So we want our immune system to be strong, and for our immune system to be strong, our endorphins have to be strong. And when we're smiling or laughing, that means our happy chemistry is strong. So we used to think that we were happy when our happy chemistry was strong. But now science has proven that when we smile, that increases our happy chemistry. So it goes good chemistry, good happy chemistry, feel good, smile. Smile causes more good chemistry to be produced. So one of the most important things you can do to stay happy and stay healthy is to smile a lot and laugh as well sometimes. We mustn't smile all the time, because sometimes we have to feel anxiety or a bit of worry or loneliness or anger, because there are things in our life that need to be fixed, and those feelings warn us about those things and give us the motivation and the strength to fix them. And smiling when you're angry is very destructive. Don't do it. When you're angry, fix the problem and then smile. Don't smile without fixing the problem. And life is better and safer if you get a simple, common sense understanding of mental health. Mental health is having normal feelings, normal thoughts, normal behavior, and the normal feelings include, when appropriate, a bit of worry or concentration and loneliness and anger. And there are things we can do to keep our health and happiness system strong. That's mainly living in some ways like our ancestors lived for hundreds of thousands of years, in whom our chemistry developed and which was passed to us from these families through our grandparents and our parents to us. And those things include a healthy, natural diet, not junk food and junk drinks, but healthy, happy, fresh, natural foods, mostly vegetable or fruit, and regular exercise and fresh air and sunlight. We need sunlight to get vitamin D. So do a Google search to find what boosts our endorphins, our happy chemistry. Another great idea, even if I say it myself, is when you're waiting to see a doctor or a counsellor about a mental health or addiction problem, watch the best 1-minute videos that help you understand your problems and what to do about them and what caused them. On your phone, find the Google Play or the App Store button or icon and press on it, and in 10 seconds download the Mental Fix-It app. Download the Mental Fix-It app. Then in 10 minutes, tap your choice of 3 answers for each Mental Fix-It app question. Those questions cover every important part of your life. And as you tap your choice of answers to the last question, an instant app report will come up on your phone screen, which tells you 4 things that are a great help for your happiness and health. It lists the 6 under-a-minute videos that will most help your particular problems. We've got over 100 1-minute videos because different people have different problems, and they only like to watch 1-minute videos these days, and to cover everything in 1-minute videos you need 100. My first video 10 years ago was 10 minutes, and it got 10,000 views in 9 months, and I thought I knew what I was doing. So I did another 8, but over the years less and less people watched the 10-minute videos, and then I discovered that everybody wanted to watch 1-minute TikTok videos, so I switched to making 1-minute videos and made videos on the 50 most important things, and then 10 more and 10 more and 10 more, and eventually with over 100 I think we've got most things, although every now and then I find something else that we should have a video on, so I do it. So while you're waiting to see your doctor or counsellor, download and do the checklists, and then watch the videos that will help you most. And the instant report also tells you which medicines are likely to help you, which you can talk to your doctor about. They also give you a list of all of your problems, everything that you've tapped, yes, moderate problem, or yes, severe problem. So you know everything. And some people don't want to know everything. They think that's being pessimistic. But to have a really good, happy, healthy life, you need to know all the problems so you can fix them all. Not all at once, but gradually. Might take you 2 years, but you'll be a lot better in the end if you know all your problems. And the problem with the usual counseling, psychotherapy type diagnosis is that it's so slow that you've only got time to find the biggest problems, and everybody's got big problems, has got small problems as well, and the small problems can be quite significant in spoiling their life and weakening their health, but they never find them because talk therapy is too slow. But if you do the 10-minute Mental Fix-It app, the instant report will tell you everything. And the fourth thing which the instant app report tells you is whether you're getting better or not. All the things that you tap, yes, a moderate problem, or yes, a severe problem, have got a score, and the app adds, every time you do the app, it adds all those scores together and gives you a total score. And then it's best to keep repeating the app every day or two and watching the videos, and every time you do that you get a new total score. And if some of the severe problems have got a bit less, and some of the moderate problems have got a bit less, then your score is going down. And the app puts all your total scores in a graph, and the graph should be going down. And if it's not going down, if it's horizontal or it's going up, you're not getting better. So the treatment might need to be changed, or does need to be changed. You need more treatment or some different treatment as well. So the Mental Fix-It app tells you the 4 things you need to know most. Whether you're getting better or not, so whether your treatment needs to be changed or not, which 6 videos are going to help your particular problems most, which medicines will probably help you most, and what all your problems are in descending order of importance. And make meditating a strong habit. What is meditating? Everybody knows it's good for them, but what the hell is it? Well, meditating is taking a little holiday from all your troubles. We need a break every now and then. You know how much good a holiday does you every year? Well, every day you should have a little holiday from all your troubles. And how do you do that? You focus on something which takes your attention and allows you to stop paying any attention to your troubles, just for 3 to 30 minutes or something like that. But the people who would most benefit from that, from meditating, are the people who are most troubled. And the people who are most troubled have the greatest difficulty taking a holiday from their worries. They have to have something pretty strong to hold their attention so that they can switch their attention to that from their problems. And the experts usually tell you to either focus on a word and just keep on repeating that word over and over and over again, and focusing on that word, and therefore withdrawing focus from your problems and taking a little rest. Or they tell you to focus on your breathing. But the best thing is to focus on your breathing. But that's pretty subtle and pretty hard to focus on if you've got a lot of troubles. I tried to learn to meditate about 30 years ago, and they gave me a word, and I used to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, but in the end I didn't manage to make a meditating habit. But about 5 years ago I had a bright idea. I got a cheap stethoscope and cut it short and plugged it in, that's the hearing part, and put that over my heart and listened to my heart. And your heart is quite a loud, strong beat. You put it under your clothes, not over your clothes. And now I can hear my heart beating quite strongly, and it's interesting, and I can focus on that, and I can stop listening to everything else. You do that for a couple of months, and then you don't need the stethoscope anymore. I call it a heartbeat meditation aid. And by the way, if you want one of those, we can supply it for $25 plus postage. Yes, so meditation is important. Beating bullying is important. A lot of people suffer from bullying, especially children, and also more women than men, but some men as well suffer from bullying. How do you beat bullying? You beat bullying with the 3 S's. Supporters, strengths and skills. They're more likely to bully people who've got a problem and haven't got friends. So if you're being bullied, look for supporters, look for friends. Try to get 1 or 2 or 3 good friends that are on your side, that you can talk things over with. Strengths. If you're being bullied, you need to be physically strong. You need to be mentally strong. So you need good food and exercise and some things that make you happy or give you pleasure. And skills can be a great help. If you learn to do something, some activity or sport or music or art or whatever, and you get very good at it, that's going to boost your self-esteem and your strength, and you'll end up being confident and respected, and the bullies will look like dum-bums, which they are. I love to watch The Voice Kids, and one of my favourites, or a few of my favourites, are people that have been bullied. So go to The Voice Kids or Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent and look for Simon Cowell's Golden Buzzer performers. There's one young dark boy who just plays the violin and jumps all over the place magnificently. And he had cancer when he was a boy, and then he got bullied. And now he's a magnificent performer, and that's very good for him. And if you've got a very big, impossible problem that you can't cope with, you can't fix, the temptation is to stop thinking about that by thinking about something else. And people think about the CIA or Guantanamo Bay or terrible conspiracy theories, or what people in some country are doing to women and children, terrible things they're doing to women and children. Don't do that. If you've got a very big problem that you can't cope with, download the Mental Fix It app, find everything, and then find a smaller problem that you can fix. Find a smaller fixable problem and work on that problem and fix it. And then another smaller problem and fix it. And every smaller problem that you fix makes you feel happier, makes you feel stronger, and makes you a better problem solver. And eventually, when you've fixed all the smaller fixable problems, you may be strong enough and confident enough to fix the big one, or the big ones. It's very important to fix problems early, because problems have this problem that they tend to get worse as the years go by, and they tend to cause other problems. Everything gets more and more difficult. So when you get a problem, try to fix it as fast as you can. While you're waiting to see a doctor or a counsellor, download the Mental Fix It app at the App Store or Google Play and start to do whatever the app recommends as early as possible. And humans need closeness to similar humans. Our chemistry we got from our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and thousands of ancestors' families who over many hundreds of thousands of years lived in small groups. They had to live in small groups for two reasons. They couldn't live on their own because the wild animals would get them. So the group had to have at least 30 people to defend one another against the wild animals. And there couldn't be more than 150 people because there weren't any farms or factories. Every day or two you had to walk out and get enough food, fruit, vegetables, nuts, berries, seeds, roots, enough food within walking distance to be able to get back to your camp before it got dark because there's no electric lights. So usually if there was more than 150 people in the group, there was a danger of going hungry because there wasn't enough of food within walking distance. And in those days, what killed most people before they should have died was infections, physical injuries, childbirth, and starvation due to famines. So our ancestors that we got our chemistry from developed that chemistry in groups of 30 to 150 people who were very close, and they lived in the same group for the whole life. Occasionally, and I'm not too sure about this, but occasionally someone might move from one group to another group, but mostly it was the same people who were born in the group, they grew up in the group, they got married in the group, they got old in the group, and they eventually died in the group, and that group was the same people, and there were no brick walls between them. They lived in huts that didn't have brick walls, and everybody knew everything was going on, and a lot of them were similar because they were family members. A lot of the other people in the group were their grandparents and uncles and aunties and cousins, and the kids all thought they had 10 grandmas because all the older ladies looked after all the kids. Yeah, so we need, if we live on our own today, we're not going to be eaten by tigers or dinosaurs or anything like that. But if we live on our own, the chemistry struggles a bit. It's now a scientific fact that loneliness is as damaging as 15 cigarettes a day. And lonely people tend to get old, younger, sick younger, and die younger. We need closeness to other people. And today we think we know our neighbours, but often we don't. Were they born in the same city, or 100 miles away, or the other side of the country, or the other end of the world. Where I was born, two of the smartest people were my younger brother and a friend the same age, and they were very smart. The friend became a Rhodes Scholar, so he went from our country town to another country town which had a high school, to University of Western Australia, became a Rhodes Scholar and went to Oxford, and went from Oxford to North Carolina where he was a professor. And my younger brother, like me, because of no school buses when we were young, didn't start school till he was 7. I started when I was 8. And we left school at 14 because that's as far as the local school took us. But by the time he was 28, he was a full professor of education at Toronto University. And sadly, my brother got leukemia and died. And our friend got dementia. And I think that there's sound evidence that both of them had those problems that killed them because their immune system was depressed by living in strange places with strange people. I really believe that if my younger brother had married locally and worked locally, he'd still be alive and well today. Humans need closeness to other humans because that's how their chemistry developed, and some of those close humans should be like them, should be kindred souls. And people need the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps are people like us, and purpose and pleasure. We've just dealt with people like us, but we need purpose. I'm the oldest and most healthy of my friends, and I believe that's at least in part due to the fact I've got purpose. Even though I retired 11 years ago, I still do a lot of work on mental health and addiction because I believe they are the biggest problems in the world today. If Putin didn't have mental health problems, there wouldn't be a war in wherever the war is. You can tell my memory's not so good. Can't keep everything. But mental health problems underlie most other problems. And purpose is one of the things that keeps you healthy. And pleasure. We all need pleasure. We all must have things that put a smile on our face most days. And it's better to have the serotonin type of happiness than the dopamine type of happiness. The serotonin type of happiness is where you're happy and you're content. The dopamine kind of happiness is where you have a thrill and you want it again, then again, then again. Dopamine addiction is the basis of all addictions, whether it's gambling or sex or heroin or whatever. So good to have dopamine hits, but also have serotonin and also have oxytocin, which helps us to bond with other people, that bonds babies and mothers, but also helps bonding in other relationships. So the 3 P's: people, purpose and pleasure. Humans need enough closeness, caring, touching and love. One of the things that worries me is the way in which, since coloured magazines and screens have become apparent, have become everywhere, that relationships are going more and more to sexual dopamine relationships rather than serotonin relationships. Since I've been doing live streaming for about 4 months, I get about 6 or 8 emails a day from hookers telling me they live close by and they love to come and see me, or they love me to come and see them. Sex is important, but closeness, caring, touching and love is more important. Much more important. A baby's first year is the most important year for most people, and it's ideal for a few. Most suffer some distress, and a few are so precious and so mollycoddled that they become very selfish. The foundations of the 2 most important things in human life are laid in the first year. They're our feeling or emotional habits and our relationship habits. When we're first born, we're just this tiny, helpless thing that we breathe and our heart beats and we open our eyes, but apart from that we can't do much more if we need something than cry. And our carer, usually our mother, feeds us every 3 hours, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a bit of a marathon. And if we're too cold or too hot, or we're wet or we're dirty, they fix it. We cry when we get uncomfortable, they fix it. And for some people, for some babies, their life is ideal. If you get a choice, be the 3rd baby. By the 3rd baby, they know exactly what to do. I helped to bring 800 babies into the world, and I still remember these mothers telling me that with the 3rd baby, oh, it's lovely, it just feeds and sleeps and you wouldn't know it's in the house. And they thought they had a very good baby. But the real thing is the baby had a very good mother because she was practiced. So because there are no perfect parents, no perfect mothers, no perfect fathers, no perfect families, no perfect communities. Most babies have times in their life when they had nasty experiences and or unmet needs. They needed something, they cried, and it didn't happen. They weren't fixed. There was a considerable delay, or sometimes just didn't get fixed. They cried themselves to sleep. So in those cases, if a problem occurred often enough and caused bad feelings, nasty thoughts, or disturbed behaviour, and they happened often enough, they became habits. So a lot of people have got some unhelpful habits as a result of problems in childhood. And a few children, few babies are so loved and so precious to their parents that they spoil them, and the baby grows up selfish and thinks the whole world has to do whatever they want whenever they want it. Mental illness is usually partly a family matter. Let's say almost always partly a family matter, and sometimes almost all a family matter. So it's best to understand your early years, your parents, your grandparents, and a bit about human history. My early life was affected by a great-grandmother. A great-grandmother in the back blocks of South Australia had 7 children by 3 different fathers, and then she died at 42 of cancer. Pooh, not too good. And that had a bad effect on one of her older daughters, who was my grandmother, and she was a pretty nasty lady, and she picked on me because I didn't look like her family, I looked like my father's family. So if you've got problems, it's best to understand your early years, your parents, your grandparents, and a bit about human history, how humans lived in groups of 30 to 150 and why they lived like that and what it was like to live like that. I left school at 14 to become a farmer, but on my 15th birthday I decided I wanted to be a doctor, not a farmer. And at the time the nearest medical school was 1,700 miles away in Adelaide. So I studied by correspondence lessons and managed to get to Adelaide, and 1 year driving over the Nullarbor from Adelaide to Perth, I came across this community of Aboriginal people, and they were all talking in languages which of course I didn't understand, and I saw the huts that they lived in, and they lived in these little bark huts about 2 or 3 meters in diameter, and there was a lot of cracks in the walls, and you could see that everybody knew what everybody else was doing. Yeah, so to understand yourself, understand your parents and your grandparents and maybe your great-grandparents and your ancestors going back for hundreds of thousands of years. It's very important to have accurate self-assessment and normal self-esteem. For all sorts of reasons, a lot of people have low self-esteem, and that's one of the causes of addiction, is very low self-esteem. People who grew up in poverty-stricken circumstances and didn't have good clothes and good toys and so on, and felt that they were inferior, or they had critical parents who kept on telling them they were doing things wrong, or they were born in another country and came to your country speaking a different language and speaking your language with a big accent. So there are lots of reasons why people can have low self-esteem and underestimate themselves. And the two problems with that, one is if you underestimate yourself, you think you can't do things that you can do, and it would be good if you did them. And the other problem is, which I believe I suffered from, is you try very hard to prove that you're worthwhile, and that causes you stress and fatigue, and so sometimes you get depressed. So, and then there's a small number of people who have a too high self-esteem problem. They have ego problems, we would say. Most of the people in my experience that have too high an estimate of themselves, that's really a cover for an underestimate. But some people do believe that they're superior. And the problem with believing you're better than you are is that you try to do things that are too hard for you, and that causes you stress and crashes. So practice observing what you do well and easily, and what you have difficulty doing, and get an accurate assessment of yourself, and have an accurate assessment of your standing in the community. And be an honest, fair and decent person. We need to be honest, fair and decent people. And why do we need that? Why are selfish people losers? Because they are losers. And it's because if you're dishonest, unfair and sometimes nasty, what sort of friends do you have? We all need to have good friends, and dishonest, unfair, nasty people don't have good friends. There might be some people that appear to be good friends, but it's just appearance. They're getting something from it, and when the going gets tough, they disappear. So be an honest, fair and decent person. And it's best to belong somewhere. A lot of people used to belong to churches, and in Australia far less people belong to churches now than they did. And there were good and bad things about belonging to churches, but you need to have if possible, you need to have a sense of belonging. Yeah. And make sex helpful, not harmful. I have some expertise in this area because in 1991 I started to work in the first impotence clinic in Western Australia, and the doctor who started the group was the doctor with the biggest ego and the least common sense of any doctor I ever met. And so we saw all these people, all these men who couldn't get erections. But we learned about other aspects of sexuality at the same time. So I'm just going to rattle a few things off that might be helpful for you. So good sex gives pleasure, closeness, creates families, and boosts our feel-good endorphins chemistry. that cut pain and suffering and manage our immune system by boosting our endorphins. But lots of physical sex, people can think they've got a good relationship, but there's not much caring, not much true contact. It's all physical sex, and they get married and it doesn't work. So physical sex 20%, 80% love, closeness, touching, caring. One of the worst things that can happen to people is childhood sexual abuse, and sadly there's a lot more of it goes on than we're aware of. And it can ruin a person's life, and 40 or 50 years later it can still be the dominant thing in their life was what happened to them as children. And what you need to know is that pedophiles usually abuse a lot of people in their lifetime. I read an article once which said that a research had shown that on average pedophiles offended against 186 people in their lifetime. Well, I'm not sure how true that was, but they're usually very skilled, very practiced, and they know that at any time they could suddenly be on the front page of the newspapers or on the television as very nasty sex predators. And any time they suddenly could go to prison for a lengthy period. So they do their damnedest to make sure that their victims don't tell anyone, and that their victims feel somehow they were to blame. But if you're being abused, they're the problem, not you. So the first thing you've got to do is tell someone, tell anyone. And then once you've got that off your chest, try to tell people who can help you. Cyproterone medicine quickly controls sex addiction and some pedophilia. I remember two cases. One was a Chinese male student who came to me in great distress. He had no money and he was hungry because he'd spent all his money on prostitutes, and he just couldn't stop that. So I gave him cyproterone, and 2 days later he came back with a big smile, and the addiction was broken. And another was a guy in his 20s who was run over by a car when he was 4 and had horrible deformities of his spine and limbs. And he just lay in bed in a nursing home masturbating all the time, and that put the nurses off and spoiled his attention. So I put him on cyproterone and it stopped, and he got a lot better care after that. Sertraline is an antidepressant that has the side effect of slowing ejaculation. So a lot of men have premature ejaculation. They come so quickly that they don't really get satisfied and their partner is unsatisfied. So just take sertraline, antidepressant. You may have some emotional problems which it may help, but the main thing is it's a side effect that slows ejaculation. And you should know that weak erections that most cases of, or a lot of cases of men that can't get an erection, it's due to narrowing and blockage of the arteries in the penis, because an erection is really a hydraulic situation. When you're sexually stimulated, the arteries in your penis open up, and every time your heart beats, it pumps blood into the penis, blows it up like a balloon. And if the arteries are narrow and blocked, that doesn't happen, and your erections are weak. And if your penis arteries are narrowed or blocked, then it's possible, quite likely, that some of your heart arteries and your brain arteries and your foot arteries are narrowed and blocked as well. So it's very important to get your cholesterol, your sugar, and your blood pressure checked, and especially if you're overweight or diabetic, and correct your blocked artery problems. And so having weak erections might save you from a heart attack or a stroke. And bodybuilding steroids are a disaster for testicles. I still remember two cases, men that one was 26 and the other was 32, and they came and they said, can't get erections. And when I examined them, their testicles were just like soft cotton wool balls. They'd shrunk and gone soft because these men were taking bodybuilding steroids. The 26-year-old worked in a gym and he'd been taking bodybuilding steroids. The 32-year-old was a magnificent looking body, but he'd ruined his testicles with bodybuilding steroids. Do you need a better home? I think younger people need to give more care and thought to how important a good home is in their life. It's easy to go out and spend your money on all sorts of things and not be able to afford to get a home. But a home should be a place where you feel secure and comfortable and happy, which gives you a sense of stability and community and belonging, and has adequate space and facilities, and is located conveniently enough for your work, shopping and other places that you need to get to, and doesn't have any neighbours or noises or pollution or other problems that spoil being home. On your phone, find the App Store or Google Play icons or buttons and press on them. Download the Mental Fix It app in 10 seconds. Answer the questions in 10 minutes and find if there's any things that are a problem for you which are arising out of an unsuitable home. So the most important thing, in my belief, is your first year, when you lay the foundation of your emotional habits, whether you're a happy, good-natured person or a miserable, grumpy, unhappy person, and whether you lay the foundations of your relationships, your relationship habits. When your mother smiles, you're happy and you smile at her, and smiling with your mother and other people is important in your life, and there's not too much unhappy relationships. Just a month or two ago, I saw one of the most beautiful smiles I've ever seen in my life. It was a 9-month-old baby. It was in the supermarket, and the baby was on a sort of little suspender on her mother's chest, and I saw this baby, and I walked over and I said to the mother, "May I smile at your baby?" and I smiled at the baby, and the baby gave me the most beautiful smile I can remember in my life. That lucky, lucky baby. So the foundation of her feelings were happy, and her relationship foundations, habits were happy. Then the next most important period of your life is the 2 or 3 years before you get married. Because most people get married or live with someone, and that can be the best thing that happens to them in their life, or it can be almost the worst thing that happened to them. You must so you start as a tiny, helpless baby that's totally dependent, and over the years you grow and you learn and you take over things from your parents and you become independent, and sometime in your independent adulthood you find a mate, and that mate must be a good quality person, or for the marriage to be happy, the people must be good quality people, and they must be compatible. So happy marriages that result in building a home, having a family, having a good life, having happy grandchildren, living to a ripe old age happily and dying happily. Marriage is so important. And conflict and unhappiness and divorce and going without, being poor and not having a good home is a disaster. And to achieve a happy marriage, you have to keep on saying to yourself, are they a good quality human being? You don't have to be an expert, you just have to ask yourself and see what you feel. Are they a good quality human being or not? If they're dishonest, selfish, and grumpy, don't cooperate, can't communicate, don't communicate, or they're different to you, you may have a crash. Look at your family and their family. If their mother doesn't like you, forget it. Look for someone else. I'm being a bit arrogant, aren't I? I'm taking the role of the old man that knows everything. Well, in the 2 or 3 years before you get married, you must become a very good assessor of whether people are good quality or poor quality human beings. And marriage is based on particular special characteristics, like they're very good looking, or they're very intelligent and well educated, or they've got a lovely car, or they're great footballers, or they're great basketballers. That's not enough. Are they a good human being, and are you compatible? Do you like the things that they like, and they like the things that you like? You don't like the things that they don't like like the things you don't like. You don't have any things that you have to have that they can't tolerate. They don't have to have any things that you can't tolerate. Compatibility. So it's a treasure hunt, really. The most important treasure hunt of your life. And I think part of the problem, so many people marry someone that's just convenient. They're just there. And you got to be prepared to search until you find someone who's good quality and compatible. I'd love you to put comments and ask questions and even put criticisms. I believe that mental health and good relationships and freedom from addictions are the most important things in the whole of your life. And we seem to be getting a lot of mental ill health and a lot of addictions. And I'm just trying to do my bit to fix those things. And if you think there's something you know that I don't know that I should know, please let me know. If you've got a question and I haven't covered it, please ask it. If you think something that I've said is wrong, please let me know. That's how you learn. Yeah, so I believe that the reasons why mental health and addictions and bad relationships are such a big and growing problem is because the tools for fixing those problems have got great weaknesses. You know, everything in life today is produced with very good tools. If it's not a good tool, somebody makes a good tool. I can remember as a boy when the two tools in the kitchen were a wood stove that you had to light every morning and keep putting wood on all day, and a big tin bowl that you washed your dishes in. No refrigerator, no electricity, no gas, no running water actually. Today we've got gas, we've got electricity, we've got a refrigerator, we've got stoves and ovens you can just switch on. We've got dishwashers. We've got so many great tools. That's just the kitchen, but everywhere there's tools. And say in some factories the tools are just unbelievable. And of course technology tools are great, but the two tools for mental health and addiction have great problems. The first tool is talk therapy or counseling or psychotherapy. That's got two problems. The first problem is to be a good therapist, you have to have a lot of training and you have to have the right psychology yourself, which means that good therapists are few and far between, hard to find, and costly. And most people with problems don't get any talk therapy, and as far as I can see, nobody gets enough. And the second big problem with talk therapy is it's so slow. You take a long time to deal with each issue. A very troubled person needs a lot of therapy. It's so slow. And the other tool is medicines. And medicine's got a terrible problem. The problem is that the people who take medicines have a great conflict of interest with the people who make medicines. The people who take medicines want them to work quickly, to get better quickly, and to be able to stop them. The people who make medicines want the people who take medicines to take as much medicine as possible for as long as possible, and preferably for the rest of their life. So the people who make medicines make as many as possible addictive. For instance, two of the 6 or 8 main mental health disorders are anxiety disorders and ADD, ADHD. Anxiety disorders include general anxiety, social anxiety, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, and various other things that they don't like. Fear of heights, fear of this or that or the other. And the 3 main medicines for ADD, ADHD are all addictive: dexamphetamine, Ritalin, and Adderall. But to make them safe, they have rules and regulations. The rules and regulations are that only specialists can prescribe them. If you've got ADD, you have to get diagnosed by a pediatrician or a psychiatrist. Nobody else can prescribe those medicines. And if you, before you get to that, start to take drugs, which a lot of people do, ADD, ADHD is a pretty distressing condition. Causes failed education, not very good employment, sometimes unemployment, relationship difficulties, and so on. So they often, and one of the main characteristics of ADD is impulsivity. They're very impulsive. They just go for things, and they go for drugs. And once they're addicts, they're not allowed to be prescribed addictive medicines, which means that they can't have their ADD, ADHD treated. One year I treated 700 heroin addicts, and a third of them, 230 roughly, had ADD, and they were in terrible trouble because none of them were on treatment for ADD. So they had this very distressing ADD, ADHD, and they were addicts, and they couldn't get any proper medicine. And one patient of mine hung himself because of that. He was a pretty smart 23-year-old IT worker who came to me in distress, and my assessment of him was that he had ADD, ADHD, which he didn't know and wasn't treated, but had driven him to start to take heroin. So I said, well, you've got ADD, ADHD, and I can't prescribe the treatment for that, the usual treatment for that, because they're addictive, and I'm just a GP, I'm not a psychiatrist or a pediatrician. And there's no point in me referring you, he's too old for a pediatrician, no point in me referring you to a psychiatrist, because they won't be allowed to prescribe medicine for you because you're an addict. But I said, there's one medicine that I'm allowed to prescribe, which I've never prescribed before, and that's modafinil. And modafinil is a stimulant like the ADD medicines, but it's only about half as strong, and it's not addictive, so I can prescribe it. And it has the great advantage that it works for 8 to 12 hours, whereas the addictive medicines usually only work for 3 or 4 hours. You could get sustained release forms of them, but they often didn't work. So I gave him a prescription for 30 modafinil tablets. And he begged and borrowed, and I don't know if he stole, but he got enough money, $143, to buy 30 tablets. But he weighed 125 kilos, so he needed to take 3 modafinil tablets every morning. And they worked wonderfully for him. He was just so much better, and he was so happy. Except that 30 tablets, $143 worth, only lasted him 10 days. And when he ran out, he was right back to where he started, very distressed with the ADD and back in trouble with the heroin. And there didn't seem to be anything I could do for him, and his flatmate told me that a few days later he tried to hang himself from a hook on the back of his bedroom door, but the hook broke. So a few days later he went down by the river and hung himself from a tree. And then I found that I could have bought double strength modafinil tablets from India for 50 cents each. So for 75 cents a day, which he could have easily afforded, because he'd lost his job and he was on unemployment benefits, would have fixed him. So that's what we did after that. Anything that's legal in Australia, and modafinil is legal, it's legal for you to import up to 3 months' worth for your own personal use. A doctor can't import it for other people, but of course I did, because most of these people had no money, and the postage was expensive, cost more than the tablets to get them from India. So I would get 90 at the time and sell them 20 at the time, which they could afford. Yeah, so medicines, there's a great conflict of interest between the people that make them and the people that take them. Anyway, I think that's about enough for today. So today's Thursday, I'll be back again on Saturday evening. Unfortunately, I did my last Sunday morning session last Sunday, but I just can't keep up with it. So I'm doing evening sessions on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Good luck.